Okay, so one question that I've been asked a lot lately is like, what is the Omni-Revenue Framework? Why does it exist? How does it work? Et cetera, et cetera. Well, the long answer or the short answer to the long question, or maybe the not so short answer, because it is still me talking about it at the end of the day, is it exists because it fills the need that we see businesses have all the time when it comes to their revenue generation. I think, there's a lot of gurus out there, some are gurus, some are actual gurus, but they all have their different frameworks. They all have their different ways of doing things. And we often see clients adopt many different pieces of advice from many different people, and then they put it all together and maybe it works, but most of the time it doesn't, and it leads to frustration and burnout, and this doesn't work, and why doesn't it work? It works for everybody else, and all these different things, right? And so after 10 years of being in business, we decided to take our best practices for what it means to generate revenue consistently for businesses and put it together in one consistent framework. It's not a marketing framework. It's not a sales framework. It's a revenue framework. So the idea is that it helps identify and guide you on how to generate revenue for your business across all the different types of ways you can generate revenue for your business. That could be marketing. That could be sales. That's also customer service. Customer service is a slept on revenue generation platform or channel for your business, but it certainly can be one if it's used correctly. So that is um, what that is for. It's a revenue framework for marketing, sales, service, and how to generate it for your business using those three things as a channel. Now we can dive in. And so I'm on omni.wundertre.com. This is a website that we have publicly available so that anyone can dive in and learn more about the framework. So I'm not going to take the time to go completely through the framework on this particular video. I just want to make you generally aware of what it is and why it is. The Omni Revenue Framework it's basically our stance is revenue is not a department, it is a natural byproduct of a unified, frictionless customer experience across every touch point of a business. Why this framework exists. I'll read off this little system or this paragraph here and this here because it really explains what we're going for. After more than a decade of running a marketing agency and growing businesses across dozens of industries, one pattern became impossible to ignore. The businesses that consistently win are not the ones with the biggest budgets or the most tactics. They are the ones that have achieved alignment, where marketing, sales, operations, and customer service all understand their role in generating and multiplying revenue. The Omni-Revenue Framework is the codification of that pattern. It is a 5-tenet operating system for revenue, a continuous cycle, not a linear campaign. Every business that implements it finds the same thing. When all 4 departments speak the same language and share the same data, revenue stops being something you chase and starts being something you engineer. Imagine that for your business, where you actually feel like you can just engineer revenue instead of having to chase after every little opportunity you get. This document is the authoritative source for the Omni-Revenue Framework. Everything that follows: training guides, client one-pagers, Wundertre OS playbooks, Wundertre X delivery standards. We all derive everything from it. So the entire experience of working with Wundertre is built around this. Our OS is built around this. Our Wundertre X team is built around this. This framework is what you will get when you work with Wundertre. And that is the other part of why it exists, is because it gives my team and our skills a reason to do and to be, right? And our OS exists to carry this out. Our software is very powerful, but it exists because the reason it's powerful is because it has to be in order to carry out what this framework says. The core thesis: revenue is not a department. It is a natural byproduct of a unified, frictionless customer experience across every touchpoint of a business. The modern buyer does not tolerate disjointed interactions. They will research you on LinkedIn, see you on Instagram, Google your reviews, and receive an email, often within the same 24 hours. If those touch points feel like 4 different companies, the trust is broken before they ever speak to your team. To drive sustained growth, a business must achieve omnipresence, being everywhere their specific buyer is, with a single cohesive narrative running through marketing, sales, operations, and customer service. Every department is a revenue generator. Every touch point is an opportunity to learn or lose the sale. So it's built around 5 tenets. The first is Omni Insight. You have to know yourself, your offer, your buyer, and your competition. Omnipresence. Surround your buyer on every channel they use. Omni Narrative. Sales as the frictionless marketing continuation. Omni Service. CX, customer experience, and Ops as the revenue multiplier. And Omni Tracking. Measure everything, close the loop, and feed the machine. Now, I'll tell you this. Most people, most businesses that exist today follow a guru on Instagram or see people on social media or subscribe to their favorite business podcast, whatever. Most of them talk about these 3 things in the middle, 2, 3, and 4: omnipresence, omni-narrative, omni-service. Now, they might call it obviously something different than what I'm calling them here, but a lot of them will talk about how you need to be on every channel your buyer uses, and you need to make sure that your sales and your marketing and your service are all saying the same thing, and that you need to make sure that you're identifying opportunities in your customer service process to do revenue upsales and revenue generation. But what I seldom see people talk about, and what's very important, and that's why it's tenet number 1 and tenet number 5, we bookend the whole system with these things, very intentionally so. Omni Insight. People they miss the mark on knowing themselves, which is crazy because we spend so much time running our businesses and doing our things day to day that we forget to really look inward and say, what is our business? What do we stand for? What do we offer? Right? Who is buying our product? And who is competing against us? Now, I don't want you to dwell on your competition. That's not what this is. If you are so focused on competition, that's a detriment in and of itself. You should just be aware of your competition so that you know how you differentiate yourself and how you can differentiate yourself and what your unique selling propositions are and things of that nature. That's really what that's for. But on the inside, people fail to start here more often than you might expect. But you must know yourself, your offer, your buyer, and your competition before any of these other things can even get off the ground and make sense. And at the back end of it all, I've had people come to me over the years and say, we want to post a social media post every day and send an email every other day and post a bunch of blogs. And so they'll do all that stuff, but then they had no tracking in place to actually know why they were doing that stuff and what was moving the needle. So then they just do the stuff to no end, literally. And so, none of this stuff matters. Honestly, none of this stuff matters if you're not going to track it, like straight up. It might make it a small impact on your business, but like for it to be meaningful, you actually have to have a legitimate way to track it. And it can't just be some hypothetical, like, well, we'll track it based on how many people come in and say they saw us on X platform. That's not tracking. That's not real tracking. Right? Because I've heard people say that all the time too. Well, yeah, we track our leads. We have somebody on the phone ask them, every person that calls where they came from. And I'll tell you right now, from 10 years of having done this stuff, I've seen customers and clients and just leads, prospects lie to businesses all the time, and unintentionally so. I'm not lying is not malicious in this use case, but they'll say like, "Oh yeah, we saw you on Google." They're just saying Google because they mean to say we saw you on the internet, and Google's just what pops up. In reality, they might have actually found you on Bing, or they could have been completely confused and they saw you off YouTube, but they just said Google because that's just, a powerhouse of a name, and people so associate the internet with Google that they just say that stuff. So then you double down on your Google and you abandon other things because that's the feedback you get. And in reality, that lead never came from Google anyway. But now you've based your whole tracking in your business and decisions based on that stuff. So asking somebody on the phone is not tracking. Measure everything, close the loop, feed the machine. You've got to have legitimate tracking in place to be able to know what's genuinely moving the needle versus what's just noise. And that's partly where the Wundertre OS comes into place, as being a really good tracking, end-to-end tracking system for you. So all that to say, the Omni-Revenue Framework takes years of experience in helping businesses grow revenue and condenses it down into some guides, into a framework that can be easily followed and easily applied for most businesses. Specifically, if you're like commercial or residential services, like the trades, stuff like that, it's really good there. Real estate and investing and things like that, really good there. There's even some stuff that will apply into retail and commerce and even restaurants as well. Across this framework. But this is a resource that I want y'all to know about. Omni.revenue or omni.wundertre.com is where you can dive deep. You can see about the framework. You'll see each tenant broken down. We have all the different types of touch points and a guide on how to use each one there, how to use each channel, if playbooks specific to your industry and vertical. It's all here, but that's at a high level what the framework is, why it is, how it is, all that fun stuff.